Hare Krishna. So today's topic of discussion is on the way to Krishna. So for 3 sessions, we will be discussing exclusively about Krishna Tattva. So today being the first session, we will be discussing about on the way to Krishna. So most of the session today will be from the small book of Srila Prabhupada titled On the Way to Krishna. Perhaps some of you have read, but no matter how many times we read, every time you read, there are fresh realizations that come from this beautiful book. It's very small, but very powerful book, On the Way to Krishna. So I will discuss some salient points from this. And after that, I will also discuss some tips to stay determined on this path of Krishna Bhakti. So I will begin with the first chapter of the book On the Way to Krishna. In this, Srila Prabhupada writes the very first chapter about how everyone is searching for happiness. Yeah. So everyone is, that is what is the very nature of the living entity, Anandamayo Bhyasat. No matter what we are doing, whether it be we are trying to excel in a career, or we are trying to maintain some relationships, or we are trying to be good to someone or do good to someone, or trying to make friendship with someone. The objective since birth after birth is to somehow attain what is called as happiness. Our purpose is to become happy. But Prabhupada writes, but we do not know what that real happiness is. And so and Prabhupada gives the analysis talking about we perceive happiness through our senses. Yeah, we perceive it through our senses, the material senses. Like, for example, when you compare it with a stone has no senses. Yeah, so it is neutral to happiness and distress. Yeah, whether you keep the stone amidst a bed of roses or you put it on the thorn, it does not experience anything because it has no consciousness. Similarly, what about other living entities? What about a small ant? A small ant tries to find its happiness in a small crystal of sugar. So a small crystal of sugar makes the ant happy or, satisfied. But the same small crystal of sugar, if it is given to a human being, that's not the definition of their happiness. Yes. So there are different levels of consciousness in which one experiences happiness. For example, a tree. Yeah, a tree is, outside, and inside it experiences the sun, the rain, the wind, everything. But if a human being is kept in the same place, outside, exposed to the nature for days on end, perhaps it's a suffering for human being. Yeah. So it's relative, and happiness is defined in different ways depending upon the consciousness of a living entity. So the conclusion is that every living being feels happiness or distress according to the development of his consciousness. How do we understand this? Like even within a human species, like what is happiness for a small child may not be happiness for an adult. Yeah, a small child finds happiness in the toys, but adults find happiness in something higher than that. Similarly, the more the consciousness of a person evolves, there is a lesser tendency to seek happiness from the material objects. And the happiness they perceive comes from within. Yeah, from within. There's a saying that, sometimes I don't know if you've ever been to some houses and you wanted to open the gate. Yeah, you push the gate, but it gets stuck. then you're unable to open it. Then you realize, oh, it should not be pushed outside. It has to be pushed inward. Yeah. Don't push it outside, push it inside. So similarly, happiness also is something that is not found outside. It is found within. So the door to happiness actually opens inside, not outside. But since time immemorial, we've been searching for this happiness. We've been conditioned to search for this happiness outside. And we are still not giving it up. Yeah. And this is the reason for the distress. So in the 6th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks about, this happiness. Yeah, he says, Sukham Atyantikam Yattat and Buddhigrahyam Atindriyam. Sukham Atyantikam Yattat Buddhigrahyam Atindriyam. What is Atindriyam? Atindriyam is transcendental senses. This Sukham Atyantikam, that excessive, that extreme bliss is experienced through the transcendental senses, not these material senses. So what the kind of happiness that is experienced through this material senses is very flickering, is very minimal. Yeah. And that is not what is actually the capacity of the soul. Yeah. The soul is Satchidananda. Its nature is to experience unlimited happiness, infinite. But then what it is experiencing through this material senses is very flickering. So, and that is the cause of the distress or suffering or frustration or feeling of inadequacy, yeah, or feeling of moroseness. Because, so let's say, I'm actually entitled to be a millionaire. Uh, so, but then, I've been just given something of the standard of what is given to a beggar. Would I be happy? No. Why? Because I deserve something much more, because I'm a millionaire's child. So is it. The soul is Satchidananda. Yeah, its potential is unlimited happiness. So because of discovering of this body and this mind, it is trying to explore and experience the happiness through this jada, the matter, in the matter. That is the reason why, the soul feels so out of place, dissatisfied. So where is this unlimited happiness present? It is experienced through atindriyam, that is through transcendental senses. And veti yatra na shaivayam sitas chalati tattvataha. So Krishna tells that once when is established in the truth of such real happiness, yeah, there is no instability. In that joy state, one is situated in boundless happiness and enjoys transcendental bliss, and established thus, one never departs from the truth. So this is real happiness. So Prabhupada explains that we are spending so much of energy in search of happiness, but we are not finding it because, as I said, it is not present externally, it is present internally. So, and then, so yeah. So what is then the process of establishing oneself in real happiness is the process of Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada very beautifully tells one very nice, very powerful word. I will just tell in Prabhupada's words, that one should abandon without exception all material desires born of false ego. So this is the key to happiness. Yeah. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with undeviating determination and faith. And one should abandon without exception all material desires born of false ego, and thus control all the senses and all sides of the mind. So owing to the false ego, what is false ego? False ego, I mean, perhaps all of us know what is a false ego. it comes from the identification with the body, that I am this body and everything that belongs to this body is mine. Feeling of controllership, proprietorship, possessiveness, these are all features of false ego. And from the false ego, material desires are born. Yeah. So Prabhupada is saying, a strict practitioner of yoga who's determined, abundance without exception. So abundance without exception, all material desires born out of false ego, and thus controls the senses. This is the way of attaining the mercy of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Raga dvesha vimuktaistu vishayanindrayascharan atma vashyar vidheyatma prasadham adhigacchati. The way to attain the mercy of the Supreme Lord is to become free from raga and dvesha, the extremes of happiness and, attachment and aversion. Yeah. And by controlling one's senses, one becomes eligible to attain the mercy of the Supreme Lord. It is not by letting the senses loose, letting the mind loose. One should not let the chariot of this body to be led by unbridled horses of uncontrolled mind. So when the chariot is drawn by uncontrolled mind, when the chariot is drawn by unbridled horses, they're wild, they go in different directions. Similarly, a turbulent mind takes us for a ride to different places. Yeah, and the soul sitting in the chariot is just, watching. Where am I going? Yeah, oftentimes not even knowing. So, this chariot of the turbulent, and it is drawn by unbridled horse, which represent turbulent mind. The end, the destiny is very hazy. So what should one do? Replace this unbridled horses with the Mahamantra. So I will give you, here, as Prabhupada is speaking about, one should abandon all material desires born of false ego and thus control the senses. And one should practice yoga with undeviating determination and faith. So today, and now, I will give you a very, very wonderful and interesting way of developing this determination. Yeah. So far we have understood how everybody is in search of happiness, and they're trying to search this happiness through the material senses. And that is why one is baffled in one's endeavor to experience true happiness, because originally we are all the spirit souls who are accustomed, who are originally entitled to unlimited bliss. But what is experienced through these material senses is just those flickering bits of illusory happiness that doesn't satiate the soul. So that is the cause of a person's original misery or distress. So how do we overcome this? How to overcome this is by connecting oneself to the source of unlimited bliss and happiness, the reservoir of all pleasure, the Supreme Lord Krishna. And what is the process of connecting is the process of yoga. And this yoga has to be executed with determination. Yeah, so I just explained how the 6th chapter of Gita explains that this has to be performed by abandoning all material desires born out of false ego. And one should carry on this yoga with determination. So how do we actually practice determination in our spiritual life? Now, this is really the most important, because on the way to Krishna, what really helps one to stand strong is one's determination. Yeah, just like how Dhruva Maharaj, who's the greatest example for determination, he stood strong amidst all difficulties. He was questioned and even, in fact, discouraged by his own spiritual master, telling him to go back to his palace. But nonetheless, he stood strong on what he wanted. So today I will tell you with the acronym of Dhruva as to how we practice this determination in our own life. Yeah. So first, Dhruva. Let's take the acronym Dhruva. D. What does D stand for? So D stands for do it daily. You may make a note of this. So D stands for do it daily. One of the most important aspect of determination is consistency, regularity. That is why D stands for do it daily. So when Arjuna told Lord Krishna, again in the same sixth chapter, that, okay, the yoga practices and its glory that you have defined is amazing, but the mind is so restless and turbulent. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramadi palavatridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudishkaram. So he spoke about the impracticality of mind control. Yeah. Pramati palavadridam. The mind is very strong and obstinate. Obstinate means mundi. It doesn't listen. Dridam. It's very, very strong. Tasyaham nigram, to control it is more difficult than controlling the wind. So at first, Lord Krishna agrees to what Arjuna says, but then he says it is possible by constant practice and detachment. So constant, yeah, abhyasa. So this regularity, although perhaps I have discussed this many times, it's a very, very key element in the process of sadhana. Yeah, do it daily in simple words. Chanting, do it daily. Morning program, do it daily, regularly. Yeah, and if there is anything else that you're doing, any service that you're taken up, or any of your educational endeavors, the key to determination is do it daily. That means be consistent. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dhrudavrata. What is the key feature of dhrudavrata? Satatam. Satatam means always, consistent, regularly, daily. Yes. And a person who does one thing repeatedly, especially at the same given time, with a repetitive rhythm, such a person is automatically situated in mode of goodness. One of the feature of mode of goodness is regularity. So, because when we're doing the same, when we're repeating the same things on a regular basis, the mind is not in a state of planning. Because if you don't have a regular timetable, if the day is not predictable, the mind is always active, thinking, what should I do next? What should I do next? What should I do next? So it's in passion, it's in rajas. So when we have a rhythm, that's why rhythm setting is very important, especially for small children. Yeah. Waking up at a particular time, and taking bath at the same time every day, and then doing the regular morning duties, honoring prasadam, honoring food at the regular time. This is called the rhythm. This really puts a person in mode of goodness, and then a person's creativity flares up a lot because the mind is free to think of something creative. If not, the mind is always deciding as to what to do next if a regular rhythm and pattern is not set. So creativity increases a lot in a person who has proper rhythms in life. So D stands for do it daily. This is one key feature of determination. Next, H. H stands for use head and heart and not just hand. So what does this mean? So oftentimes, when we do things regularly, it tends to get mechanical. Yeah. So when things get mechanical, a person loses determination. Isn't that what some people say that, yes, we are chanting, but after some time, I'm unable to keep up. Why? Because it has become mechanical. There are many reasons why sadhana becomes mechanical. And one of the main reasons is one is just doing it as a matter of a kind of duty and not putting one's head and heart into it. Yeah. So when one puts one's heart into one's activities, into one's endeavors, then that kind of a determination stays stronger. Yeah. So determination by just repeating things is not long lasting. A person gives up, yeah, because uh, it's difficult to handle boredom. Yes. So that is why one has to put in one's heart and head. So that's when determination is stronger, and that is translates into perseverance. So we can see this in the beautiful example of Hanumanji. Yeah, Hanumanji is an amazing combination of head, heart, and hand. Hand in the sense of his own skill and his power. Hanumanji was very powerful, and not just powerful. He was very intelligent. He was very well read in all the shastras, and he had mastery over many languages. Yeah. At the same time, he had such a soft and wonderful devotional heart. Yes. So, I mean, recently we were discussing about the Sundarakanda aspect of Ramayana, yeah, in which, uh, when Hanumanji was looking at Mother Sita from the Simshupa tree, he saw her that she was about to hang herself. So at that time, he was, his intelligence was acting fast. Yes, he wanted to rescue her, but then he immediately became very uh, uh, conscious that if she sees me and thinks that I am a messenger of Ravana, she might, commit suicide even faster. So, I have to think of some other way. Then he begins, narrating Ramakatha in the Avadha Bhasha. Yeah, that's, it takes bit of intelligence and heart to serve in such a gracious way. Yeah. So because Hanumanji is so exceptional, he had this opportunity to personally serve Ram and Sita, and on a special mission of Lord Ram himself. So these are exceptional qualities. So one needs to develop this balance of head, heart, and hand. Yeah, oftentimes it's too much head, or too much head makes one become very dry. Only hand makes one become mechanical. Only heart makes one become emotional and sentimental. Yeah, too much heart. So, a person should have a good mix, good balance of these three aspects. Yeah. The head, hand, and heart realm. So that's when actually services really happen. A person becomes very productive if there is a good combination of these three. Oftentimes in the educational system that we are in, uh, actually the hand realm is hand realm is neglected totally. That is why you see modern day students, they cannot do much of work, yeah, manual work like cooking or gardening, or I was just trying to do some gardening. Oh my God, little bit of just using the sickle and putting the seeds. I was tired by the end of just 10-15 minutes. Yeah. So, so so one should have this good, as I said, the modern education is not laying sufficient emphasis on development of the hand realm. It's only head and a little bit of heart somewhere, but it's only geared up to develop head. That is why people, who excel in academics have a very bloated intellect, to the exception of, mature emotions, and especially skill at one's work. Yeah. So a good education will actually bring forth a balance of these three: head, heart, and hand. So that is H. Yeah. So what is the next alphabet? What's the next alphabet in this acronym?
U. It's DHR, Guruma.
R. Yes. R. So DHR. So what is R? So R is very, very important. What does R stand for? R stands for reinstate rather than replicate. So what does this mean? Reinstate, reinstate, reinstate rather than replicate. So reinstate means one should rest in one's own talents rather than trying to imitate somebody. Replicate means trying to blindly imitate somebody. So oftentimes what happens, we may be trying to be determined by doing things regularly. And also we might be trying to put in our heart into our sadhana. But what actually makes us lose our determination is when we fall prey to comparing ourselves with others and trying to imitate their actions. Yes, this is where Swadharma is so important. One should understand what is one's own nature, one's own talent, one's own Krishna given mission, purpose, one's uniqueness. One should spend time in understanding oneself. Yeah, this is called reinstating. But if we try to simply artificially imitate somebody else, then, this is a major factor a person loses determination because they are trying to do jobs what they're not meant for. A person who is doing Swadharma, they find happiness simply by doing what they're meant for. You see, some people, they might be, let's say somebody who's researching. There are people who are meant for that. You leave them alone. They don't need titles for it. They don't need degrees for it. You just leave them alone. Their default system is they just keep doing some research somewhere. It's in nature. Yeah. Similarly, we should try to understand what our nature is, and what we are meant for, rather than trying to replicate or imitate someone blindly. Imitating someone blindly is the major cause of losing determination, be it either for your material advancement in your career or even in the realm of spiritual life, in the sadhana bhakti. Yeah. So one should be true to oneself, listen to one's heart. One should be true to one's nature. And in that nature, one should try to evolve and, by escalating one's consciousness and trying to do activities that are in alignment with one's own nature rather than which are against one's nature. And this is the way of actually remaining determined on the path. Yeah. So R stands for reinstate rather than replicate. So this is like so that is everyone needs to know their individual capacity. What is their capacity? Just like again in Ramayana, we see how all the Vanaras, they knew how far they could jump. Yeah, the 100 yojanas far jump from Kanyakumari to Lanka. Yeah, everybody said that I can jump only 10, 15, 20, 50, 60, 80. Finally Angad said, I can jump, but I cannot come back. And he was very clear, no, I cannot come. The reason why Angad thought I could not come back, because Lanka is a place of so much opulence. It is so lucrative. It is so attractive that if I go there, I cannot come back. Angada had this genes of Vali. So Vali is somebody who is so addicted to material pleasures. So he knew if he goes, he will not return back. Everybody knew about, they were self-aware of their own strengths and weaknesses. So this is self-awareness. This is very, very important, because unless we know where we are, we cannot start working from the right point. Let's say we are, on the path of sadhana bhakti, we have reached, we are at the level of 20. but we project ourselves to be at the level of 50, we're not just fooling others, but we are fooling ourselves. We do not get the adequate help. Let's say we are in a deep well, we are inside the well and we need help. Yeah. So we are calling out for help. And the person is ready to give the rope and they're asking, where are you? And you say that, I'm just, very close, just 50 meters down the well, while you're actually 80 meters below. So you'll get the rope only till 50 meters. Yeah. So as a result of which, you won't be saved. So one needs to be very clear about where they are. And that's how one can truly make progress. Yeah, being genuine about one's own level of advancement. So that is self-awareness. When one is self-aware, that is, these are my strengths and I know these are my weaknesses, one is very realistic in their goal setting. Yeah, when one is aware of one's strengths and one's weaknesses, one is realistic in one's goal setting. So when one is realistic in one's goal setting, one makes appropriate plans to achieve those goals, and those goals are very much attainable because those goals are made with complete awareness of what are one's strengths and what are one's weaknesses. When one is not aware of one's strengths and weaknesses, one makes very, very inappropriate goals. Like, for example, let's say my capacity is I can read only, let's say, 30 pages in a day, 30 pages max. But I've said I don't know that, I'm not aware of that, or I haven't brought that into my conscience. I set my goal. Today I will read 1/4 book. I'll finish 1/4 book of Gita. I will not finish it because that's not my capacity. Yeah. So as a result of which, what we do is we don't even finish those 30 pages. We finish only 10 pages, or we might leave even before finishing 10 pages. So because of not being self-aware, one even gets into underperformance mode. One actually ends up doing much lesser than what their potential is if they're not clear about what their strengths and weaknesses are. So the self-assessment is very, very important aspect. So this is reinstate rather than replicate. Yeah, and this is very important for remaining determined in one's path. So, yeah. And then what is the next alphabet? What's the next alphabet?
U.
U. So after DHR, the next most, like after being regular in one's practices, doing it daily, H is by using one's head, heart, and head, heart, and hand. And by also being oneself, one has understood what is what is to be done. Yeah, one chalks out the mission, one chalks out the plan, one chalks out what is to be done. Goals are set. So the next most important thing to do is you. What is you? Be uncompromising in attaining that goal. Yeah, what is being uncompromising? It is the ability to say no to deviations. Yeah, no matter what, I will do it. I will chase it. I will attain it. So that is being uncompromising. So only a person who is uncompromising in attaining one's goal can actually achieve those goals. If not, many people just leave it in between. Yeah. So this is uncompromising. So I was recently reading a book called Principles by Robert Dalio. In that, very interestingly, he writes about the interviews that he has conducted of the top businessmen, like Bill Gates, of that cadre. And interestingly, he has found some important commonalities in their attitudes. Yeah, there are commonalities in their attitudes which led them to success. And one of the commonality is that when they were given a choice between pleasing people and achieving goals, they have always chosen achieving goals. Yeah. Oftentimes what we do to please others, or to in the name of balancing many other things, we compromise our goal. Uh, so that's not the way of how leaders make it. So this was it's an interesting point that I have read there. So be uncompromising. Yeah, understand what is your goal, and once you've understood that this is the ultimate, one has to be uncompromising in getting there. One should know where to compromise and where not to compromise. Yeah, it's a gentle balance. So only such uncompromising nature will actually get one closer to one's goals. So U stands for being uncompromising. Yeah. And what's the next alphabet?
V.
V. So V stands for valor. V stands for vigor. Vigor and vairagya. Both are V. Yeah. Give it full vigor. Pursue your goals with full vigor. That is, give your best self, and at the same time remain unattached to the results. Vigor and vairagya. So this is exactly how one. So oftentimes what happens is when we put in a lot of effort, there's a tendency to become attached. Yes, this is a danger. This is a major danger in spiritual life. Oftentimes we think that we are irreplaceable. Yeah. But the fact is, nobody in this world is irreplaceable. Anybody can be replaced anytime. Yeah. So one should simply render one's service that has been given in the spirit of vairagya. Yeah. Of course, whatever service is given to them, one should feel possessive about it. But when one is suggested to, stop this service and go to another service, one should be able to be detached very much, exhibit vairagya. So when that is not there, a person holds on, yeah, with the sense of mine, possessiveness over one's services, and because of which they harm themselves, they harm others. Yes, and they tend to take credit which does not belong to them. Yes. So this is what is, again, one loses determination on the path if one is not having this well-balanced elements of vigor and vairagya. So either if a person may have an extreme of vigor and no vairagya, these are people who are in mode of passion. That means they run, chase, they're go-getters, they somehow get things done. But at the same time, they really hold on to the results, for profit, adoration, and distinction that comes as a package for the effort. Yeah. And when that is not there, they cannot excel. This is only vigor without vairagya. Some people are the other extreme, only vairagya, there is no vigor. Yeah. Anyway, this is a temporary life. What is there to do? And, pseudo renunciation. Yeah. There is no vigor in our services. There is only vairagya. And that's a mode of ignorance. The only vigor is passion. Only vairagya is ignorance. Vairagya is Falgu Vairagya I'm talking about. Yeah. So determination means a combination of these two, vigor and vairagya. Vigor means to put in efforts, best of one's efforts in doing something, and not be attached to the results of it. Be it your own education and career. Give your best efforts, but be detached from the result. How do we do that? This happens when we are putting Krishna in the center of our activities, when we are doing it with the consciousness of whatever I am doing it, I'm doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. Yes, so if I'm studying it for the pleasure of Krishna, to please Krishna, not to glorify my ego. Yes, or not to uh, chase my egoistic pursuits. No, this is not the purpose of my education. This is not the purpose of my studies. My purpose is to glorify Krishna, to please Krishna. Yes, when this is clear, then Vairagya comes automatically, because I am not the center. Krishna is the center. So this is V, very, very important. That is vigor plus Vairagya simultaneously. And then the last word, the last alphabet is A. A stands for accessing aid of the Almighty. Yeah, accessing the aid of Almighty. That is, till now, BHRUV is all our effort. And the last is the mercy of the Lord. So that's the ultimate result giver, right? Krishna is called Sarva Karma Phala Pradata. This is one of the names of Krishna. Sarva Karma Phala Pradata. He is the giver of the fruits of all actions. So we may do so many things, but ultimately the fruit is given by Lord Krishna himself. So A is accessing the aid of Almighty. That is, we've done our part and now is the time to depend on Krishna. This we understand through the beautiful example of Damodar Leela. Yes. Where Mother Yashoda is trying to bind Krishna with the rope. And, she's tried in so many ways. And it's interesting that, when she tried to tie Krishna, she did not just stop with one rope. She brought in more and more and more and more ropes. That means she has tried in many ways. That means many different types of endeavor was present. If you see the 18th chapter of the Gita, the 5 factors that cause action, adhishtanam tada karta, yeah, the doer of the action, yeah, the place of action, the various senses, and one of the factor is various kinds of endeavor, and 5th is the super soul. All these 5 together constitute success in action. So various kinds of endeavor. That means I have just endeavored in 1 or 2 ways and I have given up. That means it may not result in success of your activities. Although the performer is the best, the place of action is the best, and the skill is there, but still, I'm not succeeding. Why? I have not endeavored sufficiently. I have not tried all my options. So this is very important. Mother Yashoda, she tried to bind Krishna by trying all means. She brought many, many ropes, not a single rope. She brought the ropes, all the ropes that are there in her house, she brought and she tried to bind again and again, so much so that she was just sweating and sweating and sweating. This is called endeavor. And when that endeavor is there, Krishna was pleased to see his mother trying so much to bind him. So that's when he himself allowed himself to be bound by her devotion that manifested through her endeavor apart from her love. Yes, so that is, accessing the aid of the Almighty. That is doing our part sufficiently, yeah, and depending upon the mercy. So when these 2 things are there, that is our endeavor and the mercy of the Supreme Lord, then Lord Krishna, a prize ajita jito asitais trilokyam, the person who cannot be conquered, will be conquered by the ropes of the devotion of his devotee. So this is the path to Krishna. This is the path of Krishna consciousness, the path of determination, which I just explained through this acronym Dhruva. And D stands for, can anybody repeat what I have said? D stands for?
Determination. Do it regularly. Sorry.
Do it daily. Yeah, D stands for do it daily. H stands for?
Use head and heart.
Yes, use head and heart along with?
Determination.
Along with the hand.
Also.
Okay, what does R stand for?
Reinstate instead of replace.
Reinstate instead of replicate. Okay, that is R. What does U stand for?
Uncompromising.
Be
Say no to
uncompromising. Yes, say no to deviations and distractions. Then what does V stands for?
vigor. Valor.
Yes, vigor and
Vairagya.
Vairagya. Vigor along with Vairagya. Yes, and what does A stand for?
Accessing aid, mercy of Lord.
Accessing the aid of the Almighty. All A's. Yeah, accessing, that's the mercy of the Lord. So this is how, when you practice each of these elements of determination, for sure one attains success in one's endeavor and attains the path of eternal happiness. Okay, I will end my session here. Thank you very much. Any quick questions? I will just take one question. It's 8:30.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yes, somebody was asking a question.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'm Deepti.
Yes, Deepti.
So, regarding the Swadharma, you spoke like the one nature, right? The one nature, you mean like you are speaking like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, like in that nature, right? So I find myself like more, I'm a first Sudra, like I have the qualities of being simple and I can be more loyal, but I also have the features of like Brahmana. Like I also want to teach. Can it be like the mix of a mix of nature like Brahmana and then being a Sudra? Is that possible, or is it like only one? You can only be Sudra, is your dominant nature. You can't be Brahmana. So I find myself, my Swadharma, I'm jumbling like.
It's a good question, a very good question, Deepti. See, this Varna determination, what you're talking about is Varna. But what I have perhaps spoken more about, more broadly about one's nature. Yeah. So, but these are like the categorizations of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra are in actually many during the Mahabharata time itself. Yudhishthir Maharaj said that during that period, even in Dwapar Yuga itself, it is difficult to find somebody who is very pure in one's varna, a pure Brahmana, pure Kshatriya, pure Vaishya, or a pure Shudra. It's difficult to find. Where it was in the Dwapar Yuga itself. So what to speak of Kali Yuga? So there's a lot of mixture. Yeah, there's a lot of mixture that happens. So one should try to understand and identify that predominating nature. That's why a predominating nature is to be assessed and understood. And that nature should be, given its expression. In fact, actually, a true Brahmana can perform the activities of all other varnas. It's whenever the right time comes. It is said that a Brahmana can be a Brahmana and Kshatriya when necessary, and Vaishya when necessary, and a Shudra when he is able to perform the jobs of all three other classes. depending upon the requirement. So you see in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a story of King Vena. Yeah. So this King Vena, he was a very, very cruel king. Yeah. He tortured Mother Earth. Like, you name it, every sinful activity he did. Yeah. So he was such a bad king that the Brahmanas of that particular kingdom, they came together and they chanted some mantras and they killed him. Yeah. So when the need has arisen, please mute yourself. There's a lot of disturbance. So when the need has arisen, the Brahmana has risen up to the platform of giving protection. So Brahmanas are, so powerful, they can take up the role of every other varna as per need and necessity. So later, but like after killing Vena, they churn his body, and from that body comes Nishada. That is from where that first Nishada race, comes. And later, a pious king comes from him. So in this way, as I said, Brahmana is somebody who can perform the duties of all other varnas. So how to identify one's varna takes a good mentor, and it takes good self-assessment as per what is one's predominating nature. One way to do the self-assessment is, what is it that when I do, I fit in very easily. That is very comfortably. So much so that even though, like, for example, you said teaching. So perhaps, when you start teaching, you really enjoy it, you relish it, and it goes without effort. Effortlessly, you're able to do something. So that's one of the pointer to one's varna. And it gives satisfaction. Yeah, it's a pointer to one's varna. And doing which, you don't expect any external remuneration to come upon. Yeah. So this is like one of the pointer to one's varna. Yeah. So apart from that, I also spoke about, and understanding one's strengths in terms of even talents and skills, etc. Okay. Yeah. So it is a very deep subject matter. I just told you superficially. Hope that it's giving some direction to your thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Mataji, for answering.
Okay, so I will end the session here. We will meet again in the next session. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So let me end the recording.